Hi, everybody, and welcome to Storm School. My name is Tom Moran, and I have the honor of working with the gentleman you're going to hear from here on this new training initiative as part of the All Hazards Consortium Operational Research Institute. This group started to meet back in March of 2021. They had dozens of initial topics they looked at. They looked at designing a framework to how to organize it. They've been on weekly calls literally every week, with few exceptions, since March of 2021. And they are planning future courses for both government and industry. Some of the topics they looked at here cover a wide array of topics that are relevant to electric sector, comms, fuel, food, a number of sectors, as well as state and local government, federal government. These folks have hundreds of years of experience combined, and you're going to have a chance to meet them and see why they chose the topic they did and what you're going to get out of it. So first, let me introduce the gentleman who was the brainchild behind this, Mike Sapone. Mike is currently the chair of the Multi-State Fleet Response Working Group, spent 30 plus years in the electric sector. Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you, and we can kind of get folks up to date on a little bit of the background here. Mike?
Thanks, Tom, and hello, everyone. And Tom, thanks again for inviting this team and giving us a chance to introduce this Storm School concept to the world. And we appreciate some time in this year's Resilience Summit. We'll talk about today's business climate, and there's really never enough time to allow people from your organization or new to your organization to get up to speed fast enough in their dark sky leadership roles prior to your next crisis. The days of allowing people the ample time to get comfortable in a dark sky role are pretty much gone. There's just too many changing and increased internal and external expectations, changing regulations, requirements, too many personnel changes, and to allow for that seamless transition. Not to mention the opportunity to build relationships with people you learn are go-to people that you come to rely on. These individuals, you know, they're leaving industry at an alarming rate. And the challenges, they're across all sectors. And they usually halt our progress or they stall it significantly, especially in the optics of our stakeholders. Stakeholders simply don't care that we have these challenges. The expectation is that we execute seamlessly and maintain a high level of preparedness and response. These challenges are present again in the private and public sectors alike. What we realized was lacking was a forum that allows people to learn from people who have served in those leadership and mentoring roles. People have been there, done that for decades, experts with a passion to pay it forward and allow others to not have to learn from mistakes and poor performance. A support system and partner to help you close the gap in both knowledge and experience transition. Storm School is that partner. You know, a trusted forum for mentoring, learning, networking, for preparing people now for real world crisis scenarios. Education and application to immediately start creating success for you and your organization from those who have done it, improved it, and remain in constant pursuit of perfecting it. You know, we call it a trade school of online learning in the field of crisis management that allows you to immediately take action and achieve results. Today, I'm joined, and we're all fortunate to have a growing list of instructors with us, people that I've personally had the pleasure of learning from and being mentored by over the past 30 plus years. I'm going to introduce them. They're going to tell you a little bit about themselves. They're going to tell you about the initial topics that they chose, why they chose them, and then they're going to talk a little bit about some of the takeaways you'll have when you complete the course. And before I get to the other instructors, I'll start with myself. Obviously 30 plus years in the electric utility industry, retired from Eversource Energy. My career spent in emergency operations, system operations, emergency preparedness and response. Currently the vice president of sales and marketing at Tempest Energy, and also have my own business on the side, Consult Mike Z LLC, and that all has to do around emergency preparedness and response. The topic I chose was emergency preparedness for the emerging or the new leader. And the reason I chose that was because all too often during the course of my career, I've learned from great mentors and had, I guess you would say I was kind of lucky. I always had enough time to spend with people to transition into higher and higher level emergency preparedness and response roles. But what I found was as time went on, those mentors were fewer and harder to find. Many people were retiring and taking that knowledge with them. And as the business climate began to change, it became clear that a lot of new leaders or emerging leaders were not getting the mentoring or the training that they needed to be successful prior to the next event. People are always changing roles, changing jobs. People are leaving industry at an alarming rate. You've heard me say this during my opening comments, and I just thought it was time for someone to put together a curriculum and a training course that was more hands-on and more, this is what you need to know now. This is what you need to do now prior to your next event so that you're as up to speed as you possibly can to be successful, not only yourself, but the success of your team. And so that's what I'm hoping the takeaways are, that people leave with an understanding of these are the things I should probably start doing today. These are the checks and balances I should be going through with my team today. These are the things I should be reviewing and talking about with my team, not only my superiors, but those that are reporting to me. What are my inputs and outputs, and how to not waste valuable energy spinning your wheels or chasing other types of initiatives that truly wouldn't benefit you in the end in a real life crisis situation. So with that, I will move over to and bring up Dave Vanderbloemen. And Dave, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Mike. And it's an honor to be able to follow such a distinguished leader as Mike Sapone and the other folks that are on this call today. They're all extremely experienced in emergency preparedness and electric utilities. My name is Dave Vanderbloemen, as Mike said. I spent 42 years at Dominion Energy. I started probably as the lowest place you can start in a company. I started as a groundman in construction, spent a few years in the construction organization, line truck driver, lineman, and then I progressed through just about every position that I could find, looking for something that I thought suited me well in Dominion Energy. I've been in operations, metering, construction, safety, you name it. I've spent some time there. I've been a supervisor, manager, general manager, and I finished my career at Dominion in 2019 as a director of the Emergency Preparedness Center and the Regional Operations Centers. In addition, I spent a lot of my time with a lot of the external trade groups. EEI, I was as executive member of the Mutual Assistance Group. SCE, I was the first alternate in mutual assistance there for several years. AEIC, the American Edison Institute, Illuminating Institute, co-chair of the technology team there. And then with All Hazard Consortium, I've been working alongside these folks with All Hazard Consortium for many years with the Fleet Working Group and now the Sensitive Information Sharing Environment and the GIS Committee. Let me talk to you a little bit about why I chose my topic, predictive damage and proactive planning. As you saw on the slide that Tom put up there, we brainstormed so many topics, and they're all important in emergency management, and they all have significant value in a restoration event. But it didn't take me long to realize having an accurate plan based on pending conditions and being able to articulate that to both internal and external stakeholders was really the foundation for your success. In my previous job, I was fortunate. We had our own meteorologists, and they did an excellent job of providing a forecast for our service territory. But what we didn't have was an easy method to compare that forecast with past experiences. We had the data, but it was labor intensive, and after some discussion and literally some very spirited debate, we managed to come up with our planning criteria. But this took valuable time I think could be better spent ensuring other parts of our plan were being executed. Once we had the plan, communicating it to critical stakeholders was also a chore. It's hard to get them all together and And they're seeing, and while they're waiting for your forecast, they're seeing it from other sources. And those sources may not be as reliable as the ones you're using. In addition, things are fluid and the plan gets tweaked. It becomes a real challenge ensuring everyone gets that information as it's being modified. Luckily, in today's world of technology and big data, accurate and trusted information is not a problem. If cost is an issue, and depending on your needs, there are even trusted weather sites or companies you can use, and you may be able to forego your own meteorologist. Regardless, if you have a process that selects only the data you need, this process becomes very easy. Automating this process helps you develop that trusted forecast. Now pair that data with meaningful dashboards that answer the questions that your folks are asking you and have that tied to your trusted data. This allows you to keep your stakeholders informed. In addition, as the event progresses, you need to keep stakeholders updated. Let me tell you a little personal story. Before we had dashboards at Dominion, I'd arrive at our storm center 3 hours before everyone else. I begin gathering and parsing data from multiple applications to prepare a morning update. And I'd have to do the same process for each sequential update throughout the day. Usually it's 3 updates a day, morning, afternoon, and evening. Again, it's extremely labor intensive and arguably probably not the best use of my time. Since our dashboards are now updating at regular intervals, this data search is reduced. And in some cases, the dashboards can become your update. What I would give to have all those hours back. This is the foundation for your response efforts. So you ask, what's in it for me? What's the takeaway for me? If you do this right, you'll provide your team with consistent and accurate information they need to be successful. You will improve safety and you'll reduce costs in resources, material, logistics like lodging and meals, and most importantly, you'll streamline your communications process. You can even be more successful. Now you have time to focus on the gaps you may have, and you're not constantly battling rumors and misinformation. This builds the trust and confidence in you, your team, and your company. It's money and time that's very well, I won't say spent, I'll say invested. So what are the takeaways? Not only from my topic, from all the topics in Storm School, I'm not aware anywhere where you can cherry pick topics like the ones that we're presenting to you that are explained to you by folks that have been there, done that, and probably learned it the wrong way. This gives you an opportunity to learn it from our mistakes. Rome wasn't built in a day, but you can pick your days and you can start building your city today. My advice, start early. And that's all I have, Mike. Thanks.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate that input and the kind words too from the rest of the team. Next up, we have Carlos Torres. Carlos, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Mike, and hello, everybody. My name is Carlos Torres, as Mike said, and I'm glad to be part of this session today with these esteemed partners and leaders in emergency management. A little background about myself. I have over 36 years of utility and emergency management experience, both from my time at Con Edison in New York, where I retired as the Vice President of Emergency Preparedness and Business Resilience, and then as a consultant, sharing and supporting in the emergency management space for the past 4 years. During my 32 years at Con Edison, I held various positions in operations, both in gas, steam, electric, and the construction areas. And ultimately, all these assignments led me to emergency management. I oversaw and supported Con Edison's response to numerous weather events, including major storms like Hurricane Irene, Superstorm Sandy, and other emergency events, such as 9/11 attacks and the 2003 blackout response. As the company's lead emergency response liaison, I work very closely with federal, state, and local agencies for the response coordination, as well as the emergency planning perspective through plan development, training, and exercising. And then now, following my retirement from Con Edison, I was part of an initial response team from the electric industry to see how we could assist Puerto Rico following Hurricanes Irma and Maria, how it decimated the island. While I was there, the governor of Puerto Rico then asked me to lead the restoration effort, which was a public-private response effort, which included the Puerto Rican government, FEMA, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and the electric industry. And we operated under a unified incident command system structure. And there we utilized the IMAT teams, comprised of representatives from the various investor-owned public and cooperative electric companies to support the Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority, or PREPA, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and the utility and contractor personnel that were brought onto the island to support the restoration effort. I ended up being on the island with my team members for over 8 months, but it actually took almost a whole year to restore all those customers impacted from those 2 storms. Following my days in Puerto Rico, I've done some work supporting companies to review emergency response plans, developing and implementing storm preparedness and resiliency workshops, structured evaluations of the organizations and their plans during exercises, development and implementation of business continuity plans, reviewing storm response practices, both from the perspective of the utility companies and from their regulators and other emergency management related support. So I've worked with these gentlemen over the years, either supporting them supporting me, working as a team, addressing many issues that we shared or were challenged with. And Dave spoke a little bit about, post Superstorm Sandy, we worked to improve the mutual assistance process, and all of those fine gentlemen were all part of this process. And we came up with the best response that we could. And it's luckily we have not had to use it, but we had that process in place to really support for major events. So my passion for emergency management really came early in my career at Con Edison, and has never stopped since it is the core of the utility business. It all started when I was a supervisor in gas operations, responding to gas leaks, water main breaks, until my last day as the VP of Emergency Preparedness and Business Resilience. And what I have done since my Con Ed days as a utility and emergency management consultant. Now, Mike spoke earlier and was so instrumental to me from 2 aspects, and that's mentoring, and both as a mentor and as a mentee. So I was a mentee first, and I had numerous mentors over my career, but the 2 most influential in my development as a leader were Dick Morgan and George Greenwood, and they were the first and second vice presidents of emergency management for Con Edison. I ended up being the third, and I came over to that organization at an inflection point where we had a very tumultuous year in 2006 and 7, and the company went through and drove a lot of changes to the company when it came to emergency preparedness. So I was there during that transition point, and then I took over as the leader of that organization, supporting the company. I also mentored numerous colleagues and up and comers through my career and today to impart my knowledge and experiences, and then to help them to develop as individuals and leaders in the industry. I do have to say that that's a reciprocating action, because what I even talk to my mentees, I learned so much more than they do sometimes from just speaking with them. So there are many facets and elements to emergency management, and many of my esteemed associates have spoken or will be speaking to why they chose their first topic, which I share with them and them with me. I ended up choosing communications and coordinations because it touches every part of the emergency management cycle: prepare, respond, recover, and mitigate. It is also the essence of the incident command system, ICS, since communication coordination is a cornerstone of ICS, both with its structure and the stakeholders that it impacts. Because you need to communicate and coordinate every action to make sure that you're meeting your expectations, but also meeting the expectations of your stakeholders. And hopefully those 2 things meet together. Every emergency or crisis event involves some form of communication and coordination, be it before, during, and after a crisis event, and through the mitigation process or the after action review process, where we engage internally or externally with our stakeholders to see what went well, what more importantly, opportunities for improvement. This is a skill that needs to be taken no matter the event, what type of event that you have, either a blue sky planning event or a dark sky response. So I hope this session on communication and coordination will provide each attendee as to the what's, the whys, the hows, and the who's of communication and coordination in the emergency management arena. And I do that based on my experiences during my career, which actually started so early, as I mentioned before. And I do hope that, most of this we'll be talking in my session will be through life experiences and examples, and both from the past and from the most recent. So thank you, and I hand it back over to you, Mike.
Thanks, Carlos. And I can say firsthand, learning from Carlos personally, that the challenges on communication and coordination post Maria in Puerto Rico were constant, consistent, and very challenging. So Carlos does bring that real world experience with him, and you'll benefit tremendously from those types of experience under a unified command. Next up, we have Mr. Aaron Strickland. Aaron, over to you.
Thank you, Mike. I'll cover a little bit about me real quick. Highlights. I spent about 39 years with Georgia Power and Southern Company. The last 17 I spent as Emergency Operations Director. During that time, it was a good time that I got to spend with a lot of people around the country, such as the panelists here. In that tenure, I was active in EEI, SEE, AEIC, All Hazards Consortium. You've heard these guys talking about that. And I emphasize that because it's very important. Great learning experiences through those organizations that really helped me and hopefully help my company and other companies. But in addition to that, with EEI, I was Mutual Assistance Chair and also helped put together National Mutual Assistance Response Plan, which I think hopefully benefits the entire United States. I retired in 2017. I retired for about 1 month. And after that, PowerSecure, which is a division of Southern Company, asked me to help them set up a storm contracting business. Helped do that. I ended up in Puerto Rico for 6 months with a few of these guys over there. At that time, with PowerSecure, I was in charge of the operations and the logistics for our teams that we had a contract with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Like I said, I spent about 6 months over there. I decided that was not what I retired to do. I came home, retired, and now I'm actually helping Utilicom, which is a division of Aspen, still working with them. A little bit about why or how I chose this topic. Maybe I drew the short straw, not sure. But anyway, I think it's a passion for taking care of people. The older you get, I think you start thinking about how hopefully we should do it all the time, but you start thinking more and more about how you treat people. And I know during my tenure, logistics was a huge thing. Because it touches everyone in whatever response you're in. It doesn't matter if it's a 9/11 type event, a hurricane event, it doesn't matter. Logistics is one thing that touches everyone in that restoration mode, whether it be water, power, gas, phone, it doesn't matter. It touches everyone. Because one thing is, we all know operations, whatever business you're in. Like I said, whether it's water or power, you know how to put in water lines, we know how to put up power lines. But one thing, when a crisis emerges, we don't do logistics every day. And that is extremely critical because you must take care of your people, the food, the housing, the little things, the background things, the parking, what time you work, how you communicate within those groups, things like that. What really brought it to me was I guess in 2004, there were multiple hurricanes that hit Florida, Florida Power, Duke, Tampa Electric, Florida Public Utilities, all these companies, everyone was hammered. Also, Southern Company's division of Gulf Power at that time, they were impacted. And with that, we saw no housing, no food, everything's damaged, shut down, people can't get to work or whatever. So that year really, I think, highlighted the need for logistics operations. So it's been a passion of mine since then that we help work on that and get better at it. And looking at it, what do I expect or what would I hope to come out of this is a focus on logistics is needed. Again, I get back to, you know how to run your business every day. Hopefully you'll pick a few little nuggets out of this that will help you understand and plan and prepare, because logistics is what I consider mission critical in your operations during an emergency like this. So anyway, that's a real brief and highlight of what we're going to cover. I appreciate it, Mike. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron, and appreciate those little tidbits of what people are going to learn. Logistics, again, that's the wheel. You could have the most powerful engine in the world, but if that wheel isn't turning, you're going nowhere. So looking forward to your sessions as well. Next up, we have Mr. Jim Nowak. Jim is going to take it from here. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, before I get into my topic, I'd like to say that over my career, I've worked with a lot of great people, and this panel is no exception. And in fact, some of them are the industry's best, and I'm very proud to be part of the team. But a little bit about myself. So my name is Jim Nowak. I had a 37-year career at American Electric Power. During that time, I held leadership positions over my career over operations, line dispatching, station contracting, metering, engineering, and accounting. Yes, an engineer in accounting. Not always a good thing, but it really did prepare me. And then my final 10 years, I did an emergency restoration planning for the corporation. Also, while at AEP, I participated in a lot of leadership roles in the industry. Edison Electrical Institute, I was co-chair of the NMART, the Mutual Assistance Committee, and was very active development of the NRE and the exercises associated with that. Also, the Association of Edison Illuminating Companies, I was on their best practice committee, and 4 regional mutual assistance groups across the United States where I co-chaired. I've also been part of the All Hazard Consortium since 2013 when I started in the Fleet Response Working Group as part of the steering committee, plus more. After leaving AEP in 2014, I started with Arcos, an IT resource management company focusing on utilities. I held various positions in there over product, professional services, and now I'm in customer success. I also do some consulting on the side for various groups when able. But my passion, and this is my passion, is helping people be successful. If I can help someone be successful, it makes me feel that I'm being successful. So the topic I picked managing storm expenses. And one would ask, well, why did you pick that? Well, the industry has been focusing for a long time on improving restoration. And I've been very active in it, and I'm proud of our progress. Well, a natural byproduct of that is cost control. Why? Well, over the past couple of decades, there's been a lot of financial scrutiny, and it's just not an electrical section. Cost control is really across everyone, and it's really wanting people to be more accountable. But when you look at it from a utility, who's requiring that cost control? It's your customers or your members, your regulators, and your stakeholders. I look at it as, when you look at that cost control, what is it? Well, it's that making sure that chaos after the chaos. Once an event is completed, you've got all the additional stuff that you need to make happen. I really refer to it as, using an accounting term, how do you close the books? Make sure that you properly account for everything. Why? Because you've got reports to do, you've got filings, whether you're going for a rate relief, and you got earnings to help your stakeholders and your shareholders. So while at AEP, I was extremely involved in these processes. I was responsible for making sure our dollars were spent prudently while making sure that we were safe and that we restored the communities efficiently. So how do we do that? Well, establishing contracts, that's one way of making sure, reviewing invoices, also assisting in rate cases, and executive reporting. So, I can't do this all alone. No one ever does it alone. And over my career, I had many great mentors. One of them was David Guy of Louisville Gas and Electric KU. Another was Jim Collins from the Southeastern Electric Exchange. And then there was Bill Loda from AEP. Bill's the one who actually put me over the T&D account group for one of the operating companies. He must have seen something in me that I didn't. So why this topic? Well, I like to follow things all the way through. I just don't want to get to the middle of it. So this is the last step in pretty much the restoration efforts. But it isn't at the end, it's also in the beginning and preparing. Let me tell you a little story. In 2012, the derecho hit AEP, their eastern area called AEP East. It impacted approximately 75% of their customers. That was across 4 operating companies and 7 states. And you know what? We learned during that time that we moved resources from state to state, moving across, putting logistics in, fueling, we had vegetation line assessment. Well, a lot of the operating companies were going to go for rate relief. And what happened is we had to capture all those dollars afterwards. And that's that chaos after the chaos. And that's why you learn to control how to control and when to control the bottom line or the dollar spent. And when you have to make sure you do that, to stand up for reviews, and you have to make sure it's well supported. Bottom line is it has a positive impact if you do it well. So what are the takeaways? Well, it's not just me. My presentation today was an accumulation of many. I'm just the one who is presenting. We want to help you avoid reinventing the wheel, help you be successful, avoid mistakes and others that others have made. The restoration life cycle, prepare, respond, recovery, and mitigation. Well, we want to help you how to prepare, how to respond using staff and processes, what needs to happen once your recovery's in the recovery phase, and finally, how do you mitigate, take what you did so you don't make the same mistake. I hope you find this overview helpful. And now I'd like to turn it back over to Mike. Thank you. Mike.
Thanks, Jim. And looking forward to your sessions as well when it comes down to, spending dollars and being reimbursed for dollars. We all know how important that is. And it's something that operations people like ourselves don't often have up here while we're in the heat of the battle. So people are really going to benefit from those lessons. Last today, we have Mr. Tony Hurley. Tony?
Very good. Thank you. And the one thing I want to talk about a little bit before I get into my background is I want to talk about just the title of the organization, the All Hazards Consortium. In my experiences, it really did not matter why the lights were off, why clients and customers were inconvenienced by power outages. The fact is that if it was a storm that came in, a hurricane that was on its way in, or it was some type of a criminal attack. The fact is that when the lights are off, it is a issue that needs to be addressed. And when you go through all these different plans, it's very obvious that in most cases, all this can be used for no matter what the cause is. So I am Anthony Hurley. I spent 37 years with First Energy and First Energy legacy companies. I worked in a number of utilities within that corporate umbrella in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey. I retired as vice president of operations and in New Jersey. We had 1.1 million electric meters where I managed a group of 1,250 represented and professional employees. Currently post-retirement, during Hurricane Irma and Maria, I was in the U.S. Virgin Islands for probably a little over a year, working on both restoration and also working on mitigation for the future. As a consultant, have worked with critical infrastructure, government, territorial and tribal entities across the continental United States, Alaska, Canada, the Caribbean, and the Middle East. What my topic is going to be business continuity and the impact analysis, business impact analysis. What we find is we just find so many companies that have plans and are comfortable, but when something happens that impacts their ability to conduct their business at, let's say, their emergency operations center, or if their supply chain is compromised, or a number of different issues, what do they do? What can they do? And the fact is that a good business continuity plan and understand all your gaps and weaknesses, especially when you do the business impact analysis, it can help you be able to spin on a dime and keep your operation going. It's just so important. So I hope everyone enjoys that training session, and I'll turn it back over to you, Mike.
Thanks, Tony. Tom, I think you can see from the diverse and the extensive backgrounds of the individuals involved here that Storm School really is a true partner for the public and private sector to be ready for their next crisis, learn from those that have done, and take on real world experience and application, and be able to move it into your next event quickly. so that there isn't a big time lapse, which can happen sometimes before the next event hits. There's no time to have finished some of those preparation exercises and things like that. So what I'm hoping is that people are going to take advantage of the expertise in Storm School and the quick, easy, and the content itself from people with a passion. I think when you talk about, I look at my own career when I got out of college and it was time to choose a career. I took a job at a modem manufacturer. That's how far back I'm getting a little old too, right? A modem manufacturer. And I remember building modems, troubleshooting modems, and my mom said, do you like what you're doing? And I said, actually, I think I wasted everybody's money. This is not what I thought it was going to be. I'm really not happy with what I'm doing. Then we got hit with Hurricane, I think it was Bob, in the state of Connecticut. And I happened to be out watching line crews and people responding. And then I was fortunate enough to be hired. I said, I think that's what I want to do. And then I went into Northeast Utilities, Connecticut Light and Power at that time. And 2 weeks in, Storm Carl hit. And I spent a week down in Stamford, Connecticut, away from home, 21 years old, at a hotel, working 16-hour days. My mom called me and she said, what is going on? What are you doing? And I said, you won't believe it. I said, I didn't waste everybody's money. This is what I found my niche. And it had to do with emergency management. And I think you've caught that passion from everyone on this panel today that we introduced for Storm School. There's a real passion about emergency preparedness, response, and emergency management. And you don't really choose it, it chooses you. And I'm really hopeful that people are going to take advantage of what this group has to offer.
Mike, thank you. And thank you to our speakers. We'll be live in the chat. For those of you that have questions, feel free to ask them. And you can visit stormschool.org. It is live. It is a website that you register for free. The content is costs nothing. And you'll see the sessions are organized in pretty much the same way. There's multiple sessions. Each session will have a video behind it, along with some learning curriculum. And then at the bottom, you'll see a panel discussion. And we did a lot of panel discussions. If you remember, Mike and guys, some of the panel discussions were lengthy and passionate. And we thought, this is great stuff. So the panel discussions are in there for each session. All of these are finished. We're finishing up the last one, which is Mike's topic for new leaders. If you go on some of those sections, you'll see coming in January, they should be done here, hopefully by this event. So anyway, lastly, I just want to thank all of our speakers. They've invested, I don't know how much, hours and hours and hours of time in something, obviously they're passionate, to make it available to you. So whether you're in government or industry, whether you're in the electric sector or comms or food or fuel, doesn't really matter, finance, these principles affect all of us, because you never know what you're going to be doing 5 years from now. So it's just capturing the experiences, and the stories were just amazing. We can't possibly get them all in today, but they're all on the website, which you'll enjoy. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. I invite you to visit stormschool.org. And if we have a few minutes, we'll go into some live chat. If not, have a great day, everybody.